Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Arena Frontier here on Field Sports Network. Today, I have a very special guest with us tonight, and he is a very busy man. He's a radio host on WFAN 660, of course, 101.9 FM, podcast host of Sports Bash Media, host of the Double Chili Islanders podcast, and, of course, tonight for this very evening in Arena Frontier, the general manager of the Entertainment Football Association Long Island team. Welcome, Peter. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Thanks for having me, Will.
Thank you, sir. And of course, now the Entertainment Football Association, it's still trying to get used to saying that because that usually aren't the words when it comes to one of the new arena football leagues. I'm still like, even saying it's like, man, it's like hard to get used to because you usually don't have association within those letters. Usually it has arena, usually has ball or something like that. But it's pretty good there. And of course, I have talked about the Entertainment Football Association here a few times on the episode. This is a new arena league here that starts in the summer, and it's right now 4 teams here in the New England region. So, and you are general manager of one of the four of the Long Island teams, along with the Danbury Diesel, the New Jersey Ciphers, and the Pittsburgh Heroes. And how were you reached about the Entertainment Football Association?
It's kind of interesting. This goes back to late December, and I got a call from somebody who used to work in the original Arena Football League, an executive in that league, and he said, "Hey, are you aware that there's a team coming to Nassau Coliseum?" And I'm like, "No." I worked for the Dragons, New York Dragons, for 8 years, and I've still kept pretty close to everything that was going on, and I had no idea. So they connected me with somebody from the league who said that they were looking for someone to help them launch the press conference for Long Island back on January 15th. So I agreed to become the local advisor on board for a couple of weeks to help them plan the press conference at Nassau Coliseum. And the person said to me, we'd like to get like 40 people, 50 people if possible to come to this press conference. And that includes fans and media and potential sponsors and politicians. And I think the final count was 91 people who wound up showing up for the press conference that day. And along the way, I had inquired about, well, will there be a role for me with this team, after the lunch? And at first it was just, maybe I'll be their PR person, maybe I'll be their play-by-play announcer like I did for the Dragons back in the day, or maybe I'll be the public address announcer. But they did say, you will have a role with this team, no question about it. As we got a little bit closer, they said to me, well, we're going to be looking for a general manager, a sales manager, a head coach. And I said, would you consider me for the GM job? I always thought back in the day, if I ever had the chance, I could probably run a team. I don't really have much sales experience. I'm a radio guy. I'm a, sports, journalist, both, print and electronic. So they basically kind of poo-pooed it for a little bit because I didn't have the sales background. So they said, we're looking for someone that's got more of a sales background. Well, as we got closer to January 15th, my guest list went from 50 to 60 to 70 to 80. And then they came back to me and said, we might want to still talk to you about this GM thing. Maybe we can surround you with salespeople that can help you grow and then you can learn on the job. So as I said, we had about 91 people at the press conference on January 15th. And it was just a great event. So many people showed up. So the event is over at 3:00. Now I got to get out of there because my younger son that day got elevated to the starting lineup of his bowling team in high school. So I had about a 15-minute drive to the bowling alley. So I knew I was going to miss the first of 3 games. I didn't want to miss the other 2. So I said to them, hey, hope everything worked out well. Can we talk soon? I gotta go. They said, don't go anywhere. We need 5 minutes of your time. 5 minutes. I'm like, I got to go to my son's game. They said 5 minutes. The league advisor and the owner of the league, Doug Freeman, the league advisor being Tommy Benicio, they take me out in the hallway at Nassau Coliseum. And they said, we see no reason to look any further. We'd like you to be our general manager. And that's how that all happened. And within a matter of a couple of days, it was all hammered out. I did get to the bowling alley in time to see most of the second game and all of the third game. So it was actually a pretty cool day for us.
Yeah, like you're the advisor that all of a sudden, like, hey, I'm the top guy now in this franchise on the business side. Like, at least they have trust you on the business side. Football side, we'll leave that to the coaches there in a few weeks. Of course, you guys haven't announced a coach yet. That will be, of course, later on here because I know at the first steps here with the team in Long Island, you guys will be announcing your guys' new logo and what the team name is next Friday on February 21st. And of course, I saw on social media there was a poll. I cannot recall where the poll came from. Like there was either having two new names or maybe even bringing back the New York Dragons brand name if you guys are able to, because nowadays you don't know what trademarks and all that stuff for. Because, for example, like I'm wearing like the abandoned St. Louis Stampede that was back in the mid 90s, and we don't know if that's still being owned by another league or not. Because usually you don't know until you see if like, okay, put that in the trademark, like, wait a minute, someone owns this, okay, scrap that. Of course, like you said, you were a play-by-play announcer for the New York Dragons, and actually I was a big fan of that franchise, mostly because of this. The Arena Football League video game, the first one that came out back in the mid 2000s, and this actually is probably a lot of people in my generation that got into the Arena Football League, and the New York Dragons to me had the best brand, the best uniforms, and all that stuff too. So we'll see what the logo is. I know if there's some people, if the Dragons name does come back, I know a lot of people would be happy. But new name, there's nothing wrong starting off from scratch either, though. Isn't that right, Peter?
Well, listen, I think when we look at all the names that were gathered in our name the team contest online, there were a lot of good ones that came in, and we'll announce the winner next Friday. But speaking of that video game, I liked the second one that came out the following year because then you got to unlock all of the old teams with that one.
Yeah, one of them is this one, of course. But
well,
I also had the AF2, and strangely,
yeah.
of course, now with people that follow the Ring Spirit like I do, some of those AF2 teams are actually still exempted, like the Green Bay Blizzard that's in the Indoor Football League. Now, of course, with the Entertainment Football Association, you mentioned the owner and one of the I can't recall the position you said, because also the commissioner of this league is, of course, former Buffalo Bills wide receiver Andre Reed. And like I saw the interview that he does, and he seems very passionate of wanting to get this league off the ground and actually grow it into the four communities that it's currently in.
Yeah, there's no question about it. He's very into it. In fact, since that first press conference on January 15th when we launched the team, he's been very, very helpful to everybody with the league, including myself. He's been on a whole bunch of Zoom calls as we've been trying to, put this whole thing together, and as they come up with the rule book, and that's still a work in progress, and coming up with the teams of officials that are going to be working our games. So Andre has been outstanding, and it's funny because I mentioned him before, but Tommy Benizio, who's the league advisor for the Entertainment Football Association, he helped launch the Arena League, which started last year, and that's how Doug Freeman got the itch to put this league together. He saw what Tommy was doing with the other league. And by the way, another Hall of Famer, Tim Brown, is the commissioner of that league. Mm-hmm. So when Doug saw that evolving, he reached out to Tommy and said, "Hey, I'd like to put a league together like that in the Northeast." And that's how it came about. So they were looking for another commissioner, and Tommy went to Tim Brown and said, "Hey, it doesn't have to be a Hall of Famer, but anybody else you think would be good to be the commissioner?" And he's like, "Look, I only hang out with Hall of Famers." So they reached out to Andre Reed, and Andre agreed to come on board. So he has been nothing but helpful and very into it. He's been asking a lot of questions to everybody in the respectful markets. When we were deciding on what to do with with the logo and with the team name and everything like that, he always asked the right questions. And I always the other people involved in the league are not from here on Long Island. And I think one of the reasons why I got this job was because of not only my familiarity with and my involvement with the Dragons, but also living here on Long Island now and knowing this community. And Andre, on a couple of the Zooms, really asked a lot of poignant questions, wanting to get to know what this community was all about. So I do appreciate that about him.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Arena League. I do cover it here on Arena Frontier. I'm in the Midwest. That's basically their base of operations right now, and I do see some similarities. Of course, I said they started with 4 last year. Now they're up to 6. Looks like you guys are doing that similar playbook, starting with 4 and see how it grows from there. Of course, Arena League, I'll mention as I have before, a little bit different than regular arena football. Like the quarterback can't go past the line of scrimmage or anything like that. It's mostly for quarterbacks and receivers, and like there's no kicking or anything like that. But it was very successful, I will say here, it's and of course a lot of those players that played last year are actually in other leagues now, but they're still building, and I'm impressed what they've become, and see probably a good success with the similar models that the Entertainment Football Association is doing. And of course, one thing I saw throughout your post is that you started going out there. You already announced some sponsorships, but the one thing I saw that caught my eye is that you're going to schools, getting, of course, to the possible fans, of course, of all ages. But of course, most important is, of course, the kids. I see you going into schools and stuff, and it funny thing is that nowadays I see most arena teams, they just post on social media. They don't actually do the groundwork like I see you doing, going to kids to schools and try to get like all sorts of possible fans in all generations in order to succeed, to get this franchise succeeding.
Well, that was very important to me in helping put this franchise together. And one of the things that I stressed to the league was that, Long Island is a different sports market than just about any other market. I mean, we're a suburb of New York City, but where we are a suburb. It's a very close, tight-knit community. And I felt that for this franchise to be successful, we had to take this team back to the roots and make this the community team. And I remember one of the best things about the Dragons for the 8 years that they were around from 2001 to 2008, and obviously we had one of the better teams, never won a championship, but the Dragons for the most part were one of the better teams in the league, led by Aaron Garcia and Mike Furry and Kevin Swain back in the day. And it was a very exciting brand of football. But one of the big components of that franchise was how many young kids we had in the stands. And a big part of that were the youth football teams here on Long Island. If we had a Saturday night home game that started at 7 o'clock, we owned the building all day long. So from 9 o'clock in the morning up until 5 o'clock, when the field had to get cleared for the cheerleaders to warm up and then for the players to warm up, we had youth football games on the field all day. And I'll tell you, one of the single greatest days that I spent working for the Dragons was a day in 2005. My nephew Steven was playing for a Pee Wee football team here on Long Island. His team played a game at the Coliseum at 10 o'clock in the morning that day. That night, I slid over from the radio booth to do television with Jesse Palmer on the TV broadcast. And I just thought it was just so cool to see my nephew play football in the morning and then have the Dragons game at night on television. And that's one of the things I'm trying to bring back with this new franchise. We're going to be very, very committed to the community. We've already reached out and have heard from a lot of the youth football teams here on the island. They're all interested. They want to buy group tickets and get that hour on the field before a game. We're doing that. We're going to get into the high schools. I've already spoken to one high school sports marketing class. They're going to run a campaign where they're going to have a little competition in their class who could sell the most tickets to our home opener. So we're going to try to do that with some other high schools around Long Island. Obviously, the majority of the focus will be, a radius around the Nassau Coliseum. The closer the school to the Coliseum, the more likely it would be for more people to come. But we are Long Island's team, and we are opening it up to all of Long Island. And the other thing that I really felt was very important here is to do the complete antithesis of the professional lacrosse team that we just had here on Long Island, New York Riptide. And I worked for them for a couple of years, but they spent 4 years here on Long Island and really showed no commitment to the local players. The last year that they played last season, they had 0 players from Long Island on the roster. And if you think about it, I don't know how familiar you are with lacrosse, but Long Island is one of the biggest hotbeds for lacrosse in the entire country, if not North America. So I never understood why we didn't have one player from Long Island on the team. And I had high school coaches coming up to me because I worked for the team, and I've also been involved in high school lacrosse around the island. My older son, who is a college football player now, also played lacrosse, and I would have high school coaches coming up to me all the time saying, we're not going to go to any of those games because there's none of the local players that are playing. So when I started talking to Doug and Tommy about this job with the Long Island team, I said, look, this is my vision. I don't know what the other three teams are going to do, with all due respect to Fitchburg and Danbury and New Jersey. My goal and my vision for this franchise is to hire a current or local Long Island high school football coach. So someone who's ingrained in the community, somebody who knows the player talent that has been around Long Island the last, 5, 7, 10 years. And then we have an 18-man roster. And I said, my goal, my vision, my hope, my dream is I'd like all 18 players on the roster to be from Long Island, whether they played high school football on Long Island, or maybe they played for Stony Brook or LIU or CW Post back in the day. I want this really to be Long Island's team. I don't know what the other teams are going to do. I want this to be Long Island's team. And so far, all 4 coaches that I've interviewed for the head coaching job, and I have one more left to go on Thursday night, all 4 of them share in my vision. So I'm very, very excited that once we get this coach in place, and I would anticipate that we'll have that coach in place within 2 weeks after our logo announcement. All focus right now is on next Friday when we announce the name of the team and unveil the logo. And then I would say probably within 2 weeks after that, we'll have the head coach in place, and then immediately he's going to hit the ground running, researching and recruiting Long Island players. And I really think that's going to make a difference for us at the box office too, because we're only going to sell the lower bowl of the Nassau Coliseum. It's got 14,000 seats, but the lower bowl's got 5,000. And I'm very confident we're going to be able to fill the 5,000 seats in the lower bowl. And I even asked, the people with the league, I'm like, do we have the ability to take that curtain off the top if we have to go into the upper bowl and sell tickets? Because I think the concept that we're going to have in having the local players is that, if we had a former star quarterback for Garden City High School, that whole community of Garden City is going to be excited about it. They're going to want to come to our games. If we had a great wide receiver that played for Sayville out in Suffolk County, that whole town loves football. They're psychopaths about football. They're going to want to come to the Nassau Coliseum to see our team play. So that's my vision. I'm very excited about it. It seems that the community has already created a bit of a buzz about it.
Yeah, that's kind of important too for any time, especially when you get some local talented people that know and stuff. And I'm not surprised with lacrosse, because lacrosse is usually big in the Ivy League schools back up there in the Northeast. So I'm not surprised, but though I'm a little bit kind of perplexed why they didn't have any local talent. It's not hard just to have one.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit perplexing.
Well, if you saw the attendance figures, you wouldn't be surprised by it, because really, again, Long Island is so different from other places. It's very much, and we have the Islanders out here, the NHL Islanders, and that's different. It's a major sport, so you want to go see the best players possible. But I think when you talk about the niche sports like lacrosse and arena football and other things, I think you have to endear yourself to the community. And I don't understand for the life of me why the Riptide chose to go in that direction. But I didn't want to go down that road. I want to make this the community's team, and I think that's the right way to do it.
Yeah, and when you said about having the lower bowl and open the other bowls in the Nassau Coliseum, it's kind of similar to what we have in the St. Louis area, because behind me we have the Battlehawks behind my flag, and that's what happened with the Dome, with the XFL, UFL. They just want to do the lower bowl, and they were surprised how the tickets, and they opened the mid, and then they opened part of the top. So if it could happen, it could happen in Long Island and Nassau Coliseum. And I'm actually glad you guys are in the Nassau Coliseum. It is basically a barn, an old-fashioned type arena, and of course I know it pretty well because I'm a big pro wrestling fan as well, and they just had Saturday night's main event there.
I was there for it.
Yeah, and it's good.
You want to know something, Will? I was at the very first Saturday night's main event in 1985, and I kind of, in recent years, I didn't follow wrestling as closely as I did back in the day. I stay in touch with it just so if I ever have to, on any of my platforms, I've ever had to interview somebody, I always stay in touch. I want to know what was going on. And when I saw it was coming back to the Coliseum, I'm like, you know what? I still have my ticket stub from the first one. I've got to be there when it comes back. And it was awesome to be there that night.
Yeah, and one thing I do know with the Entertainment Football Association, they do kind of want to put some have some celebrity meet and greets according to their website for tailgating before the events and have content after. Of course, a good example, because I know probably one of the bigger ones. If you want, let's take example with the pro wrestling crowd. That's, of course, is WWE Hall of Famer Mick Foley. That would be a perfect person to get there if you're able to
Yep.
do that.
I've got his number in my cell phone. There's a number of people I'm working on for that. I mean, being in the sports media for 35 years here in New York, I know it's not called a Rolodex anymore, but I kind of joke with people, yeah, my cell phone is my Rolodex now. So we've already reached out to a bunch of local and current athletes, and I can tell you that for the 4 regular season home games, and I am planning, already thinking, oh, we're going to have 2 more because we're going to have 2 playoff games. I'm hoping we're the number 1 seed, and we host 2 playoff games as well. But yeah, we're already working on some maybe former New York Jets that I stay in touch with over the years. You know, the Nassau Coliseum is very important to me. I grew up with that building. I grew up going to Islanders games. I grew up going to New York Arrows soccer games. I worked for the New York Saints lacrosse team, and they did it right back in the day because that team was all Long Island players. Obviously, I worked for the New York Dragons and the New York Riptide, but also, Billy Joel concerts and the circus and all those things. So I also want to use that opportunity to bring back celebrities as almost a tribute to the Coliseum, because we really don't know how much longer the Coliseum is going to be up and running in business, because there's a proposal on the table to turn that land into a casino resort. Whether the Coliseum remains part of it or not, we don't know that yet. So I'm going to use those celebrity meet and greets too. I'm going to, leverage my experience and my relationships. Not only do I want former football players, but like you said, maybe a Mick Foley for wrestling. Maybe I bring a former Islander back as a tribute to that building. Shep Messing, who played goalie for the New York Arrows soccer team. They had a dynasty almost concurrently to the Islanders Stanley Cup dynasty. He still lives on Long Island. I'm very good friends with him. I think I would bring him out there for a celebrity meet and greet. So there's no shortage of people that would be available for that. Now, that's one of the things I'm excited about.
Speaking of your home schedule, I actually have your home schedule right here. And the one thing I noticed, the first one right there, bringing back the New York, New Jersey rivalry in sports, which I'm happy to see right there, because I'm probably guessing the Ciphers are going to be your number 1 rival in this league, even though you faced Danbury twice at home games so far.
Yeah, I gotta think about that, because Danbury is very interesting. I told you my older son Bradley plays football at Western Connecticut State, which is in Danbury, and literally a 5-minute walk to the arena where the Danbury team is going to play. So with no traffic from my house here on Long Island, it takes me an hour and a half to get to Danbury. I don't know how long it's going to take to get to Morristown. I think it might be actually a little bit longer. So I don't know. I think it's splitting hairs as to who our biggest rival is going to be, whether it's Danbury or Morristown. Fitchburg is a different story. It's probably about a 5 or 6 hour drive there. But New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, it's a tri-state area. I think all those rivalries might be equally as good.
Yeah, and I'm just happy to see it because I know the whole New York, New Jersey type deal relationship throughout sports, and of course back when the Nets, well, they're in Brooklyn when they were still in New Jersey, how the basketball rivalry was at with the Knicks at the time. So, I'm just happy to see that those type of old rivalries, area rivalries, come together. Of course, just a reminder, folks, because like this is the Danbury Diesel with the one here is the other team right there, the Fitchburg Heroes, and then the New York Ciphers. And one thing I did like because of how regional it is, like I kind of like the league is starting in the air where back when the original 13 colonies, back when the country was young. So I kind of like that it's starting like that. And also, even though you said that Fitchburg was like a 6 hour drive, travel wise, this is probably one of the more easier traveling schedules I've seen in an arena football league in a long time.
Yeah, I think for most of the league, these are going to be day trips. I mean, Fitchburg's going to have the harder travel because they're the furthest team away. But yeah, I mean, it'll only really be one night in a hotel for anybody that's going to Fitchburg or Fitchburg coming anywhere. And you probably, depending on the times of the game, they may decide to make it a day trip. And I think it all depends on what our home games are going to start at 6:00 at night. So I'm not sure what the other games are going to be yet. But and this was the idea for this league, is to make it so close that from an expense standpoint that the travel expenses are low. Next year they're looking at adding 2 more teams. I've heard Glens Falls is New York, upstate New York is going to be a possibility. I think that 6th team is still in play, where they might go with that. But that's going to be the beauty of this league, is that expenses will be down. I think this league's got a real chance to survive because of the way that they've planned this out and planned the vision and made this a league that can be sustainable.
Yeah, and the one thing too is to let people know, like, of course, there's some leagues that start next month here in March, and the Entertainment Football Station, it's like the Arena League. It's a summer league, and actually, I think weather-wise, it's actually better for you guys up there in the Northeast because even though it gets hot here, it's not as hot up there, even though it's inside. But travel-wise, it's not really that bad, and course, I just have to see how it goes there with the expansion because I know on the website here the goal is by 2030 to have 30 teams. Ambitious, but a good ambitious goal, I
Yeah.
might add. So it's
I
kind of
think I'm
good
going to
there.
have to get a passport because also Doug Freeman's got this vision of taking this league globally too. So my passport's expired. I'm going to have to get that thing renewed.
Yeah, I have heard there are. I know Canada is still a possibility in some circles. Of course, that's not really that far from you guys, so that's one
No.
possibility. And of course, I know there's already because in the arena sphere there is going to be what team in Mexico, but that won't happen until next year.
Yeah.
So that's good there. And the one thing you said about getting local talent, because I know for course, like I said earlier with lacrosse, you that is the Ivy League school area there where you are, and of course, I'm pretty sure you might be looking up some Ivy League football players, and of course, now the Ivy League conference is actually going to be going into actually the number one part of college football. So in the years to come, you're going to get some possible recruiting of better players here in a few years for Long Island.
Well, if as long as those players that play in the Ivy League have a 631 or a 516 area code attached to their phone, I think we'll take a close look at all of that. But I think when you think about Ivy League football, Jay Fiedler, who was a former NFL player, played for the Dolphins and played for the Jets, among other teams. He's from Long Island, and he's an Ivy League player. So, hey, if they're from Long Island and they went to Ivy League, that means they're smart. So we want smart football players from Long Island. That would make sense to me.
So by that days, it seems like because I know some of the new re-leagues sometimes they do a draft, but it looks like it might be just signing players and free agency and local tryouts, probably. I guess.
Yeah, so that's the concept. I think we'll get players in three different ways. Number one, the coach will recruit players that he can reach out to, maybe has a relationship with. That's number one. Number two, we will have a local tryout. I've already been inundated with emails from players wanting to try out, and my response to them is, that's great. Send me your information. I'm going to pass it on to the coach because my singular football decision is hiring the coach. Beyond that, the coach is going to pick the roster. And then there's also going to be a league combine too. I think that all four teams will be able to attend and look at players. So it's going to be to me, it's going to be a wide pool. There's so many, Will, as you know, the NFL, when you look at their rosters, 32 teams, 53 players, there's players that just miss out on making those rosters. And then you've got the UFL, which is the combination of the XFL and the USFL. And there's 8 teams there. And then there's still players left over, and they go to these various indoor football leagues. So to me, there's so many good football players that are just looking for that opportunity to showcase their skills. And I think the beauty of our league is that we're running from June into August. So if there might be players that just miss out on an invitation to an NFL training camp, they could play in our league, get 8, 9, or 10 games of tape. And then maybe there's a team in the NFL who's looking to fill a roster spot in the middle of training camp. Our season is over right as training camp starts in the National Football League. So I remember David Baker, the commissioner of the original Arena Football League, always used to call the AFL the League of Opportunity, because it had it was a great product. There were so many great players, and there were players that went on from the AFL into the NFL. Kurt Warner was one example, and Mike Furry was another, and Kevin Swain, and there were a few other names that escape my warped brain sometimes. But I think that could be the case in our league too. If you have a player who's a really good athlete and a really good football player, and he puts up big numbers in our league, well, I fully expect there's going to be scouts paying attention. Our games are going to be on television, and games will be streaming, so people will get a chance to see it. I wouldn't be surprised if you see, a handful of players from our league wind up going to NFL training camps or at least getting a tryout.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised that too, because I know there's still players from the UFL to get shots too, and even last year, a few players in the unfortunately now the defunct Arena Football League had some stuff right before there too. So, and I don't get the whole thing that's going on here that with the. Unfortunately, I hate that the Arena Football League went into that state last year, and luckily the good parts go to the AF1, and they'll just stay there because I'll just say this. I get nothing from Lee Hutton that I see from Andre Reed, so that's the one best part I can see the positive with the Entertainment Football Association right then.
Yeah,
And
I don't want to pile on to their problems last year, but that was actually it was tough watching what happened with the AFL last year, because for me, my memory of the AFL is going to be the 8 years I spent in it from 2001 to 2008, and obviously being a distant part of it before that. We had the New York City Hawks were here in New York. There was the Red Dogs. There was the New York Knights back in 1988. So I always followed arena football, and then I was lucky to be a part of it, working for the league from 2001 to 2008. But what I saw with that league last year was very, very unfortunate. I give Jeff Fisher and a lot of the other people that are now with AF1 all the credit in the world for salvaging that season in the second half, keeping it together. And I'm sure you watched it, but when people were joking that the Arena Bowl was in the American Dream Mall in the Meadowlands, and I started to think about how could you have a football game in a mall? They have this beautiful ice rink that the New York women's hockey team had played a season there. They've done other things. The Harlem Globetrotters just had a residency at that facility. It's a beautiful facility. It's a great mall. It's a tourist attraction. So I'm like, how are they going to pull off this football game in the mall? And I got to tell you, and my son had not yet gone to college yet, and he helped me out. I did public address announcing. They brought me on to be the PA announcer, and I helped them get a little publicity before the game. And that game really came off very, very well. I don't know how you felt about it on television, how CBS Sports Network produced it, but I thought the game, given everything that went on with that league,
it went better than I thought, especially without the whole rumors and stuff of thinking it might not be going and all that stuff. If all the group of us in here, it's like, oh no, we don't need another thing happening.
No, it was really cool. Like I'm sitting there down on the field level in the PA booth, and I just caught myself a few times, like looking around. I'm like, wow, there's a couple thousand people here watching this game. I mean, most of them were from Albany because it was a short, drive down from Albany. But I was looking around, and I kept looking over at my son. I said, wow, this is like actually really, really cool. Like, I don't know if this is sustainable. I don't know if you could put a franchise there, and unless you got, because you can't sell enough tickets to sustain a franchise there. But like, if you got enough local sponsors, like this would be pretty cool to see this, 6, 7, or 8 times during the course of the season. But it was pretty cool to be involved with it. At least if that was the last time I was ever involved in an Arena Football League game, that was actually pretty cool. I enjoyed it.
And one thing I want to mention, because I'm going to put this here, because the season ticket information for Long Island here, and it's very affordable compared to most things, because, dear Lord, even the baseball tickets for Major League Baseball has become expensive. Even Cardinals here, but dear Lord, Yankees and Mets, they've been going up year after year, and you're in neck of the woods up there. So, but it's affordable. That's why I like where it's affordable and it's fun, and it come more fan engaged over the past few years.
Yeah, there's a ticket price for everybody that we're going to have in our building. And look, I'm not going to compare our league to the NFL or any kind of arena football league to the NFL, but I'm a diehard Jets fan, and even Giant fans would say this too. Especially if you're living on Long Island, it is a royal pain in the neck getting to MetLife Stadium. You got to go over 2 bridges or through a tunnel to get to MetLife, and the traffic is just brutal getting there, and especially coming home. And for football fans on Long Island, one of the big reasons why I think the Dragons were successful back in the day was that, hey, I can go see a football game in my backyard at the Nassau Coliseum, drive right in, park, plenty of room to tailgate, have a great time at the game. And that's going to be the concept for us here, like, look, it's not the same time of the season as the NFL, so you can get your little appetite for the NFL season coming to see our games. But it's gonna be a great time for people in the community. You drive in. We're gonna have this massive tailgate party before every home game. That's part of the plan, with an interactive, fan zone. Then we're going to have our game at 6:00, which is going to be great. And hopefully we're going to have a great atmosphere and thousands of people watching the games. And then the other unique thing about our league is that we're going to have a post-game concert on the field right there in the Coliseum. All 4 teams will have a post-game concert. And I just think it lends to, like, there's going to be something for everybody, whether you're a casual football fan or a big football fan, and you've got kids, and they're going to have fun at the interactive area. They're going to get autographs after the game. And then we're going to have some fun with some music and a nice way to cap off the night. And I'm not sure which bands we're going to get, probably some local, Long Island bands. I don't think Taylor Swift is going to be in our budget, so I'm not sure that's going to work out. Actually, Billy Joel would be the better choice, but I don't think that would work out. Either for us. But we're going to have some fun. It's just going to be a really family fun atmosphere with a lot of cool stuff going on.
Yeah, I think actually Billy Joe would actually be more affordable than Taylor Swift, and maybe a better show, in my opinion. I know he sold out Busch Stadium a few years ago here.
I've seen him 21 times.
Oh, yeah, of course, I forgot. He usually, if there was an open day for Madison Square Garden, he usually tries to book it right then and there. So, and I'm happy to see how this goes, Peter. And I can tell you one thing, you and I both, because if we saw from the Super Bowl from last Sunday, when you're looking at players, you need to always look at the linemen the most, because up front is usually how you win championships and win games nowadays. And that was true last Sunday with Philadelphia, and that's one area I hope that the coach that you hire look at when the tryouts for Long Island.
Yeah, it's very, even back in the day, I remember, when the Dragons, were playing, and it was just so important to find. And remember, it was Iron Man football back in the day, so you had to have guys who could not only block but also pressure the quarterback. And if you were normally a defensive player, learn how to block. And that was really what a lot of those teams, a lot of those championships came down to, who was able to figure out a way to get linemen who can play both ways. And that was a really difficult, thing for coaching staffs to do. And I know the coaches that I'm talking to are big believers in making sure that quarterback gets time to hit that receiver that goes in high motion, or maybe it's the receiver that stays at home and catches a swing pass and tries to make something into nothing. So it's going to be a very important part of our league, and it's going to be interesting to see how the coaches take a look at this thing with 7-on-7. I mean, where do you take a player away from? Do you only go with 2 wide receivers? Do you go with an empty backfield? It's going to be interesting to see how that all develops through the off season here with the training camp.
Yeah, and I'm rooting for you guys up there at the Entertainment Football Association. Keep growing the arena game, and I know you need to get off here because as I said, you're a busy man. Also, with all the stuff you do, like radio host, podcast, 2 hosts of different podcasts, and now the general manager of the Long Island franchise here. So thank you for joining us here at Arena Frontier, and I wish you on the most success. And remember, guys, on February 21st, we'll hear what the logo is, and then pretty soon the coaching announcement. And when do you think probably player tryouts will start?
Yeah, it's a good question. I really don't know, Will. Again, we'll have the logo next week and the coach within a couple of weeks after that. And then, it's really up to him and his schedule. Like I said, the coach is probably going to be a Long Island high school head football coach could also still be a teacher during the school year. So it's going to be interesting to see how we get that. I mean, the tryouts probably be on a Saturday, I would think, just to maximize the amount of people that we can get to it. But I would imagine you'll see, a local tryout probably sometime in April, I would think, is probably a good guesstimate. Don't hold me to that, but I'm just thinking the coach is going to want to get up and running, hire his assistants, look for an equipment manager. We're still filling out our office staff too. So we're going to need a good infrastructure to run an open tryout, because it's not just about the coaches too. It's all hands on deck. I remember back in the day when the Dragons had open tryouts, I was out there with a stopwatch. We even had my wife out there with a stopwatch because we needed everybody interns, PR people, everyone, salespeople. Hey, go make sure that guy's got a water bottle over there. So it's going to be everybody that's going to be pitching in. So we're going to have to find a date that works for everybody.
Yeah, and and you got all this down, but it's searching for the right talent for the right system. Because, like you said, I don't know what system that your head coach is going to run, and he's probably got specific players in mind. So it's going to be interesting once the league starts to see like how all the four teams like just mesh with each other and just collide here
Yeah.
in June. So thank you for joining me, Peter. And
one more thing before I
oh,
let you go, in being nostalgic now with being involved in arena football, I found this
oh
from back
wow,
in the day. How about this? 2001 New York Dragons autograph football.
wow.
How about that?
Very good, man. That's really good. Like I
With the
actually,
original Arena League logo on there, which I never understood why they changed it, because that to me was the symbol of how that league grew. So I like the fact this when we move into our offices at the Coliseum, I think this is going on my desk.
yeah, like I got a few arena balls myself. Nothing like that. Like seriously, it's hard to see. Like usually it's a different company because usually you don't see Wilson on the ball anymore in a lot of
Yeah,
arena leagues.
yeah, there it is, Wilson. And I got David Baker's, well, not his real signature, but that's his signature there on the ball. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think this is going on my desk in the offices when we move in.
And that seemed probably a good selling point for potential sponsorships, I might add.
Yes.
So yeah, man. Like, thank you for joining me. I had a very fun time, and maybe I'll have you on us a little bit later in the season or after season. Hopefully, maybe celebrating a championship in the first season of the Entertainment Football Association.
Well, I got to tell you something, Will, and this I'll leave you with this. I told you before, I grew up with this building. That building is like, and I've had several different residences in my life, but the Nassau Coliseum has always been like a home to me. And it's been a very, very long time since we hung a banner in the Coliseum. The Islanders won 4 cups. The Arrows won 4 indoor soccer championships. I'd like to be the last general manager to hang a banner in that building too. I don't know how much longer it's going to be around, but it'll be special if we can hang the first Entertainment Football Association banner next June of 2026 on opening night.
I got you, and I'm hoping for that too. And I'm hoping for a great season for the Entertainment Football Association. Keep going, and hope, and as you said, expanded by those 2 locations, and we'll see what there, because I believe the playoffs or championship game, or if I recall later, there's going to be some neutral sites game for possible future expansion
It's
locations.
possible.
So
Yeah, they're still talking. It could be a ninth, excuse me, could be a ninth regular season game at a neutral site. So we'll see what happens with that. It's still being bounced around.
gotcha, and I'm hoping for the best, and maybe a few more years. I'll just say that at this time, because of how the Battlehawks are here in the St. Louis area, if the entertainment football expands more to the Midwest, this might be a good idea during that time of the year. But we'll
Well,
see.
without a UFL team here in New York, the Battlehawks are my team in the UFL because my good friend Anthony Becht is the head coach.
Oh yes, and unfortunately he had to cancel his appearance here because of the storm. But I'm going to beat him next Wednesday at Ballpark Village in St. Louis. So we're ready for it. Like if you've seen the games, we are ready for football here again and here in St. Louis, and we love our Battlehawks, and I know that Long Island's going to love their arena team in the Nassau Coliseum and show the passion as you do, Peter.
Thank
And
you.
thank you for joining me this evening.
My pleasure, Will. Thank you anytime.
Thank you, man. We're going to take a little break, and then take a little break here, then we'll follow with a little bit of news before the end of the show. Be right back.
Houston, we've triumphed. I've made it back to Earth with the cargo intact. The game-changing, time-sensitive payload is none other than the revolutionary energy flavor we've all been waiting for. Introducing Merc Mayhem Cherry Limeade. Merc Clan played a crucial role in securing this energy flavor, and together we've unlocked the future of power. Merc Mayhem is not just a drink, it's a statement. a fusion of relentless energy and bold flavor. The secret is out. Merc Mayhem is set to redefine the energy landscape, leaving ordinary drinks in its cosmic dust. Get ready for a taste explosion that matches Merc Clan's unparalleled power. Join the revolution, and let's unleash Merc Mayhem upon the world. Astronaut M signing off.
Welcome back. So, got a little bit, just a little bit of short time for the end of the show this evening, and I want to break down some breaking news when it comes to signs within the arena football sphere here, because right before the show, because it's kind of amazing that there was a player announcement, of course, with one of the best wide receivers in all the arena game, Darius Prince, and hold on here, of course, there was an announcement yesterday by Anthony Carter on X here, if it will load here, basically saying he was going to announce because he's not going to be signing to Albany anymore. Apparently there was some type of disagreement here, and if this will actually load, but here we go. And it froze. You gotta be kidding me. Now, well, I'll let it load here because right before the show on Arena Football One's YouTube channel, Darius Prince talked about his career, like how it started back in when he was with a Pittsburgh team. I cannot recall the name. I am sorry about that. And he mentioned wanted to go to a different team because apparently it's. Oh, here we go. This is what his statement was. To the community of Albany, first, I would like to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. The love you guys shown me and my loved ones since 2021 will never be forgotten. With that being said, our team has come to an end. Not a goodbye, but I'll see you later down the road. My love for the community of Albany would never change. I will not allow no negotiation that turned personal alter my love for the city, and I hope you guys feel the same. It was a hard decision to accept. I will not go into exact details because that's just not me, but the end of negotiation money wasn't even a factor anymore. I'm big on respect and loyalty, and I've shown that time and time again over the years. And in that YouTube announcement, he announced that besides playing with the Albany Firebirds, he has moved to the different division, the Central Division of Arena Football One, and is going to play with one of the newer teams in that conference, the Corpus Christi Tritons. And dear Lord, with him in there, with all the talent, with that new team, I can't really see. It's going to be kind of difficult now for those other two teams with Southwest Kansas and the Selena Liberty, because Corpus Christi, you add the best wide receiver in the arena game today, and then add, of course, I mentioned before, they signed the quarterback of the championship of the Duluth Harbor Monsters, and you add that with that talent and how they're picking up this team together, because they just were signing players once they figure out that they were not going to play the National Arena League, and now they're in the Arena Football One. So it's going to be kind of good there. And I know that someone that I know in Arena Football Sphere, because it looks like that might be his team, Arena Football One, Luke Miller. And when I get him on here on the show again, I'm going to ask if that is his team and how he feels about it, because Corpus Christi, I actually have them might be winning the Central Division, or they're at least going to get to the playoffs, in my humble opinion, as of right now on paper. But we have to see, because we all know with arena football, with the chaotic play and also injuries, we'll have to see. And another big signing is because Charles McCullum, who was signed to the Arizona Bandits, then got released, and then the Arizona Bandits, of course, signed Malik Henry, and now it was announced that the former IFL player uh, now is back in the Indoor Football League, playing for actually in the same state in Arizona, the Tuscan Sugar Skulls, and that's going to add a big dynamic in that division in the West for the Indoor Football League. And boy, it's just so exciting to see with all these leagues here, because now, as I said before, technically the Arena League, I may say start, because the American Indoor Football League with the three teams technically start this Friday on Valentine's Day with the Western Michigan Ironmen playing their game, but I still have questions with that little league there, unfortunately, but we'll see. And usually those games are actually streamed on the West Michigan Ironman's excuse me, on Facebook page. That's usually how you get it there. And it's just quite good to see, like, now we're getting this because now with the Super Bowl ended, or I'll still say the big games, so not to get in trouble here, with the Eagles beating the Chiefs in a very uh big, in a way. All, you know what I mean. All I'd say is I'm a defensive lineman, glad to see all that play there. uh and then it's just really good just to see how everything is just good for this, and I just like to see how this is. And just before we end, I'll just add up a few more signings, and that's about it for this episode of Arena Frontier. And dear Lord, Arizona, throughout the last week, Arizona had a signing spree. Running back Janelle Coleman III, defensive back Darius Hatch, quarterback Jake Mortensen, defensive back Alfonso Taylor, wide receiver Joey Buckley, offensive line, defensive line Maya Brown, interesting with the apostrophe there, athlete Torjor Oliver, defensive back Tavion Allen, offensive line Corkastanian, and wide receiver Joe Buckley, but they also released wide receiver Lance Lawson. Then Nashville just had one signing at defensive line Justin Foster. Southwest Kansas signed wide receiver Emery Simmons, offensive line Camry Barney, offensive line Omar Roberts, offensive line Kyle Shafter, wide receiver Deshaun Young. Orlando signed Demetric Anderton. Billings signed quarterback Russell Minor Shaw. And Albany signed wide receiver Daquil Williams. So very big signing, and we're getting pretty close. We're less than a month away from both the National Arena League and the Arena Football One starting their seasons, and a little bit after Indoor Football League, then the Arena League, and then in June, the Entertainment Football Association that my guest Peter Schwartz is involved with, the Long Island. And as a reminder, next Friday, we find out what the team logo and colors are, because as of right now, the team's logo is basically this right now. Next Friday, find out what it is, and interesting to see what it is. Will it be the Dragons, or will it be some other new entity that goes into the culture of the Long Island area? You saw with my interview with Peter that he's very excited and very determined to get this franchise into the best. I will say, and also just a reminder, I forgot to say when he was on here, the X handles, because so far it seems like the Entertainment Football Association does their social media on X and Instagram. Uh, and of course, for the league's handle, it's ENTFLA for their handle, and then for specifically for the Long Island team, ENTFLALI for their. And right now, and as I said before, Peter's already got some sponsorships done some scheduled some community events, and doing it. And like I said, Nassau, like, even though it's the lower bowl, Nassau Coliseum is the biggest out of the four that they're playing, and it's set for like a 5-6 hour travel deal. This is probably the easiest traveling league schedule I have seen in a long time. In a very long time. So I'm very excited here. It's like, and we'll see how Friday goes with the Western Michigan Ironmen. And I don't know about the other two teams in the AIF, so we'll see how it is. So we'll just see how it goes, I guess. And I don't know, like I said before, I have questions with the AIF, but then, as I said before, I can't wait to see the first Sunday game on Vice for Arena Football One. And then so far with Indoor Football League, all their games will probably be on YouTube with the local broadcasting that they do there. And of course, with the Arena League, it's just YouTube. And we don't know what the streaming is. I probably assuming with the Entertainment Football Association that YouTube probably will be involved in some way with the newest league, because, like I said, they had someone that was part of the Arena League or with experience there, so they probably will go with a similar blueprint. So it's exciting to see, and I'm just excited. And thank you for joining me for this evening Arena Frontier. And I think I'm going to have a show next week. I'll let people know on social media if I do or not, but probably will. It depends on the news. And I hope to see you there or next time on the show on Real Frontier on the Fuel Sports Network. Thank you for joining us.